I'm Gina. Welcome back to Tight Ship Mama. Today I'm inviting you down to my basement, which was dubbed Bicentennial Basement when we first bought this house. We are dealing with red brick carpet, blue, two different shades of Smurf blue, and red laminate countertops, and a little bit of black trim and this gray paneling, as you can see. This is the lowest priority for us as far as what we're gonna fix up in our house. But we're in quarantine, and one of the groups I'm in on Facebook called Bo Home, they put out a challenge to use up what you've got to update or spruce up a space or to do a project. And I thought, you know what? This is the perfect time to use up this paint that I've been wanting to get rid of and also make the basement a little bit more fun for the kids. So the first thing I did was I went to where we keep our extra paint, and I chose the ones that had the most paint still remaining. So I kind of lucked out because this is a creamy beige that we used in our television room, and I think this is gonna be used to cover the blue. And I also have a decent amount of black, and I think I'm gonna do that on the lower portion of the cabinetry. I also have some fun colors. This one is called Crown Jewel, and I bought it to paint a dresser, and once we got started, it wasn't the color I wanted. But I have an entire unused quart plus a little bit more in here. So we're gonna see what I can do with that. The next thing I did was I went through different fabric that I still had on hand from various projects, and I thought I'm just gonna put everything in a pile and see what I can do. I've got two windows that we will show you, and I'm hoping to make some curtains for that out of the fabric I have. My mother-in-law had given me years ago some stencils, and I've never opened them. So I have stencils that I can work with and the brushes that are brand new, and it came with this metallic gold rub. So I'm gonna see if I can't do something fun with that. Maybe not these stencils in particular, but I'm gonna do something. You're probably wondering why this Cheerios box is here. It's here because I do believe I'm going to make some sort of stencil on my own, and we're gonna see if that works out. Okay, this is a $0 budget. Everything I have is what has been hanging around my house. And if you want to pass time in quarantine, maybe pull out some old paints and see what you've got and see if you can't do a little makeover yourself. I've also got some pillows that I want to recover. And the basement is really for the kids' play area. Normally this is covered with Legos. I've moved those upstairs for the kids. And I'm gonna give you a tour of the rest of the basement, and you can see exactly what the space looks like and how I can hopefully update it a little bit on, again, $0 budget. Okay, come with me. So like I said, this basement is truly for the kids to play. We don't worry about how they treat it for the most part. These cushions are from an old patio set that we had, and I would put the time and money into nice cushions for here. But what ends up happening is the girls just throw these on the ground and they make a runway, and this is their stage where they perform. So I really don't want to even spend any money on things that are gonna stress me out. I want to just be able to have them play down here and not worry about how things are being treated necessarily. The other fun thing that we do in our family is this picture is quite old, as you can see, because it only has 3 kids and I have 4 kids. But I like to photograph my kids as if they were a band, and it was the cover of an album. And this is the photo that started it all. So when quarantine is over, I am going to print out some more of those photos and maybe make more of a collection down here in the basement. So this is the blues I'm talking about. I think the darker blue, if you can see, is going to be black, and this is gonna be cream. And I think I'm gonna do an accent wall here with something fun that might have to do with stencils. Come on over here. And originally this was for records, and in here would be where your record player would go. We just use it as kind of a garage, and the girls do want me to keep the doors on here because they say they hide out in there. So I'm gonna leave those doors on and just hopefully have enough paint to go over those. So So this is our bar. Again, continuing with the bicentennial theme, we've got our red laminate countertops and our Smurf blue cabinets and still having this red brick floor. So this is not normally how much food I have on hand, but again, we're in quarantine. So this is our quarantine food. And you know, if you've watched my channel before, that I like to switch things up in my decor. And when I say shop my house, this is where I come shopping. I just keep my things here, my brass, my pewter, my blue and white, some crystals. And when I want to change up the look of things, this is where I come. In my cabinets is where I store what I would call the party-sized items. So I'm hoping to be able to consolidate and declutter a little bit of the stuff up there and see if I can't get everything down into these cabinets. And that's pretty much it. We have a lot of storage. There's more storage under here and under here. We do use this refrigerator. So I'm just gonna try to spruce this up a little bit more and see what I can do. So now the final room that we're gonna work on, come with me. We're fortunate enough to have a powder room down here in the basement for the kids to use and for their friends to use. Again, it's more Smurf blue, and on top of the Smurf blue, now we've added black laminate, yellow sink, and yellow toilet. So I'm going to work with what I've got. I'm going to repaint this entire room and maybe do something a little fun with stencils in here as well. So I will keep you posted and show you some of the projects as I'm going along, and maybe you too will find some time in this quarantine to get a little project done and use up some paint or supplies that you've got on hand too. On to the fun part. I rough draw a stencil that I'm going to use in the powder room of a palm frond. It took a bit of trial and error to find the right material to use for the stencil, so I finally settled on this contact paper, and I borrowed this blade from my dear friend, and that was exactly what I needed to make this work. This gold rub was a little bit old, and when I opened it for the first time, you can see it was a solid pancake. But I figured nothing to lose, I might as well try adding some water and see how it works. And after a little bit of time, it was actually very easy to work with. And I was able to do this whole powder room with this stencil and with this gold. It was really easy to work with. I'm coming to the end of the project, and I wanted to tackle the behind the bar area. This section here I've always used for storage and for shopping my home, but I would like to have it look a little more put together, so I'm going to try to remove all of that stuff and fit it down underneath here. So I've decluttered and gotten rid of just a few things, not much, because I've really pared down to the bare bones as far as I'm concerned. So this is stuff that's like our party sized serving trays, and I want to just again try to fit all that stuff down into here and see if I can't just organize it a little bit better and then tackle these shelves. There are 3 shelves to be put back up there, and I'm going to decorate them to just be a little bit more pleasing to the eye. When decluttering, this is such a common conundrum. We don't use these cordial glasses very often, and we have much prettier ones that we do use when we do drink a cordial, but I am going to hang on to these because I'm going to look at them not as a cordial glass, but just as a vessel for holding something. And I'm going to do a video on organizing Legos later on, and I think I'm just going to hang on to these for a little bit longer and see if my son can't use them for Lego storage. So we're moving into the more fun part of the project. What I've done is I've gone around my house and I've gathered all these random pillows that were just sitting around. These are the free pillows that come with, you know, outdoor furniture that you buy or even a couch. And if it's not your style, then they're really easy to cover. So I've gathered up all the pillows. I don't care what sizes they are, I will make it work. And all of the random bits of fabric that I have in my house as well. And I'm just going to see how many pillows I can get covered with the fabric that I have in hand. And we're just gonna reuse what we've got, make the best of it. This is the back wall of the playroom, and I want this wall to be an accent wall or a feature wall. And I had this idea to make a stencil, and I got the design idea off of a tile that I found online. However, when I went to make the stencil, I did not have the right tools to make a true stencil. So what I ended up doing was just making the hexagon shape, because that was the original shape of the stencil. And if you zoom in here, you can see I'm using, again, just stuff that I have around the house from quarantine. I had to make a grid on this cereal box. You can see there's a grid, and that is the design that I am actually going to make. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to paint around the edge of these, and then when all the edges are done, I'm going to hand paint these lines in here to give the design that I wanted to do. It's not going to be as perfect as I thought it was going to be, but I'm hoping that it will give it more of a hand-painted original look to it. If you are considering stenciling, just do your math once, twice, 3 times, because you don't want to skip that part and then regret it later. So I ended up having to do the center of this stencil in the center of the wall. Some of the things I saw on YouTube videos on how to stencil a wall, they had you start with the top of the stencil at the top of the wall in the center. So if you're gonna do stenciling, just make sure that you do your math and you figure out exactly where it's going to end up along the ceilings and along the sides, so that you don't have a big gap up here and a really small gap down here. So just make sure everything is lined up. So I found the center of my wall, and then I measured out the lines where I want my stencils to be next. So this is 7.5 inches from this line to this line. And then I also know that it's 4.5 inches from the bottom of this stencil to the top of this one. And that's my plan. So Wish me luck. Again, it's all free paint that I had on hand, so worst case, it's not what I imagined at all, and I just repaint the whole thing white. Okay, wish me luck. Great, I'm gonna start. I just have this dollar store paintbrush that I had bought for my kids, but that is all I have left. And I am just going to try and get about that size is what I want. So here we are in the final version of our basement, and I'm really pleased with the results of the whole basement. But let's start here because this is where I actually started in the renovation. I had 1 full quart of this green paint, and so I knew I could do an entire bathroom with a quart of paint, and I had a little bit more in a second container. So that's what was the basis of this bathroom, simply because I had the right amount of paint. So once I knew it was going to be this Kelly green color, I thought, that makes me feel like Miami Beach, Golden Girls. So that kind of was the theme in my head. And that's what prompted the palm fronds on the wall. And I did these with a stencil that I cut out of contact paper because I had a big roll of contact paper from the kids' textbooks that I have to cover in the fall. So you'll see the making of that stencil that I did, and I had the gold, it's a rub that's specifically for stencils that I had never opened before, so I used that. And I just shopped my house. I had my bamboo tray that you saw last week in a video. These are actually my family in Mexico. I don't know who they are, but I think they kind of go with the theme. I brought in some of my melt glass and a fresh bar of soap, and I had this towel already. If you watched last Monday's video, you saw me style these shelves. So I did declutter a bit down here. I didn't do all of this because I didn't have enough black paint to do all the insides, but I did declutter in there. Another tip when you're decluttering, or when you have what I call party-sized things, try not to stack more than 3 or 4, because the higher you're stacking things, the less likely you will be to actually pull them out and use them. So I was able to declutter in there and get everything that was on the shelf down in here. So this is the final bar. So part of what made this $0 makeover possible was I looked at things in my house that I already had in new and different ways. So if you follow me on Facebook, you might recognize this fabric as the fabric from the cushions in my sunroom, but what it was before it was even a cushion in my sunroom, it was a duvet cover that I had bought on sale, and my daughter just didn't love it. So just look at your things in your home as fabric. Don't say, well, it's a duvet cover, so it must always be a duvet cover. So that enabled me to make 2 of these curtains for the basement. In the original house, this was where the owners would store a stereo, and these are speaker mesh. But the kids wanted me to keep this as their garage for their stuff, so I did have enough black paint that I was able to paint all of that. And what I am going to purchase when this $0 makeover is officially over, like I said before, I take photos of my kids as if they were a band. So I'm going to get those frames that are the 11 inches by 11 inches of a same as an album cover, and I'm gonna just kind of lay those here to kind of make my photos of my kids look like they're in a band, and these are the records. No room in my house is complete without real plants. So I'm very lucky to have a friend that owns a plant company, and I just sent her a text one day and I said, are there any plants that will survive in my basement with little to no light? So she suggested the peace lily and the snake plant, which I already had in my house. So I just actually divided this one into 2 other snake plants, and I just brought the peace lily downstairs. And we're eventually going to do a Legos organizing video, and you'll know why I wanted plants down in the basement when I do that video. But I love every room having fresh, real plants. So again, I wanted to brighten up the basement and kind of bring it up to a little bit more modern standards. I went around my house and I gathered all the pillows that were not in use or the ones that I could recover. And this type of pillow covering I call my 5-minute cover. My mother-in-law taught me how to do this, and I might do a tutorial on that one day with her if she's willing. But literally, once you have the fabric cut, it's a 5-minute project. So again, I shopped my house. This was a Kafka quilt that I had used to cover a chair in my daughter's room, and this is the same. This fabric was originally in this house as curtains, and we also cut down those, and my daughter has this in her bedroom as well as curtains. This is actually the same fabric as those curtains. I just used the wrong side of the fabric, and this is some sort of binding, I guess, for when you make curtains, but I just thought it was kind of fun, and there's no rules. It's a whole different look on the fabric, but it's the same thing, just the right side and the wrong side. The next pillow down, this was a leftover fabric from a dress I had made myself. And the final pillow, this is a napkin that I had bought on deep clearance at World Market, but I only had one of them. So I thought, perfect, I'll use it as a pillow. And the final labor of love is this wall. I worked so hard on this wall, and I honestly never had any ideas of giving up on it because I could see it in my head what it was going to be. But for the cost of the paint, I think it is such a wow factor. And I'm going to show you the whole idea started with a box of Cheerios. So I made my template. You can maybe see the lines on there. And as I needed these stripes, I simply cut another template out and I labeled them 1, 2, and 3. And as I got down to the bottom row, I just kept cutting my stencil until it was the size that I needed. So it was really, there's one mistake, but it's underneath the picture. And I did even cover it up well enough that even my son was like, where's that mistake? And I'm like, I'm not gonna tell you because then you'll never unsee it. But it's underneath the picture, and I started in the middle of the wall. If you like this pattern, it was from, I just Googled Moroccan tile because I wanted to find, I love Moroccan tile, but I wanted something simple enough that I could do it with a stencil of this idea. So I will link below the real site where you can buy this tile if you like that look. And they show you how to lay it out, the tile, in different designs like that. I will also link below one of the videos I use to kind of teach me how to do the stencil and where to begin on a wall. So it's a lot different if you're using something like this versus a big sheet that you buy. So I can't wait to get my kids back down here and playing and see what they think of their new basement. But thank you. All the Smurf blue is gone. I'm so excited to have this space updated in our house for $0. I hope that you have a little bit of time in quarantine that maybe you can get rid of some old paint and just use it outside the box. Find your fabrics, anything in your donation pile that can be turned into a pillow, that old cable sweater or wool dress or something like that. But think outside the box, and you can always do things on a budget. Enjoy.